Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bobble Pod. And on this episode, I'm going to be joined by the amazing Claire Daniels, one of the original founders of Bobble Pod back in 2020, just after lockdown. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
We're going to do this over two parts because there's a lot we want to talk about in terms of the reality of running an agency. So this is going to be about an hour. We planned this to be about an hour long and we're going to split into two parts, but we'll get straight into it. It's so good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
I know. It's like, look how far I've caught without you. Am I joking?
On my advice.
Yes. It was good when it started, but it's great to have you back on the actual episode. But for those new listeners, do you want to quickly give a quick introduction to everybody?
So I'm Claire and I'm the CEO and owner of Trio Media. We're a web and performance marketing agency based in Leeds. Got a team of 13 people. And my career started out, I often worked in client-side marketing roles and kind of grew my way through. Worked in a couple of tech companies. And then I'm not the founder of the agency that I now own, but I took on the reins in full in 2020. And yeah, you know, now enjoying all the fun stuff that comes with it that we're going to be talking about today. So.
I know. Today we're talking about the reality of being an agency owner. There's a lot more in-depth elements we'll go into, but as always, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and follow me on my Mr Bobble official social pages where you can ask me loads of questions, disagree with me. I actually like the disagreements because it's all about having a debate and getting to know each other properly and having sensible debate. So you've been an agency owner since 2020.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd been an agency owner since May 2020 because I took it into an agency model officially in 2020 post-lockdown. Prior to that, I was running it as more as like a consultancy, had an outsourced team. You guys did quite a bit of work for us. We worked across clients a number of times. And then I kind of just re-strategized on what I was good at, which was strategy, PPC, SEO, paid search, paid social, and display analytics. And I was like, that's what I'm good at. That's what I can do day in, day out, and I can evolve in. But we used to use you guys and used, obviously, our website. Don't look at our current one because we've had a new one built, but I have to sign off on the content, which has been going on for 12 months now. I know, I'm very, very bad. But you've just designed our new website as well. So we still use you for a lot of web stuff and we throw a lot of stuff your way. So since the last time you were on, which was, we were in the old offices, remember?
Yeah, well, we were filming that at my old office on the calls before we both worked in the same building. Yeah. And I should probably just add for context, because as much as I say I was running Trio on my own since 2020, I've been involved in the business since 2018. And obviously that's, I think from as soon as I got involved, we started speaking and seeing about how we could work together in certain ways. But it's just been a solo journey since 2020. So
2020 changed it for everyone. Yeah. Lockdown, I mean, I had my transplant on the 19th of March, as you remember, and we remember catching up a couple of months after, and then you guys did what is our current website design back then. So actually a refresh after 4-5 years is always a good thing to do. I always recommend it to anyone. Is always refresh your website every 3 to 4 years so you can move with the trends. And at that point we were both originally starting our solo journey, me moving more into our actual agency model from a consultation model, and you taking over the reins from, was it your sister-in-law? Yes. And taking it over, and look how far it's come.
Thank you.
I actually mentioned you in a LinkedIn post.
You did, for International Women's Day. Well done.
Oh, do I get a well done?
Yeah, because it's good when there's male allies for women prepared to speak up on that day as well. So obviously I appreciate the shout out, but also just well done for getting behind.
I wanted to do, when I thought about it in 3 aspects: in my personal life, in terms of my personal company, my career journey, and my business journey. And I always said in my personal life, it's my mum, nobody else. You know, she came here as an immigrant, worked 3 jobs, obviously now a British citizen. I'm first generation, I'm standing on her shoulders. I have a lot to live up to, and it's her I just try to make proud every day. I said, when running my business, it was always you. And Gemma. So Gemma was the first person I had as a VA who supported the business, and it wouldn't be here without it. But also, it was nice to have a friend from, uni, someone who's running an agency, doing different things, someone that you can actually, spitball ideas from. I mean, we last caught up back in, was it just after Climb?
Yeah.
And we talked about, June last year, we actually had to sit down and catch up. I've been through a lot in terms of my health and the support you provided me. So I don't forget people that have been there and very influential. And in my personal career, it was Nikki Gray, who I worked with into marketing, who actually allowed me to do what I wanted with an entire department and actually take it to where it was, and then also supported me when my kidneys were failing. That time I ended up on dialysis. And before that, the person who gave me my first job, which was Christina Bruff, now Christina, I forget the last name now, Hawksworth, who without, I wouldn't even been in this industry. So I always think it comes back to those 5 people.
Yeah.
They always say you should have, as you're growing up in business, when you get to a certain level, you should have someone mentoring you who's been there, done it, someone at the same level as you who's going through the same journey as you, whether it's in the same industry or not, and then eventually you should have someone below you that you mentor so you can actually showcase your developed and your learning and put it into practice. I have mentors above me, but I've always seen you as someone who's on the same level, same journey as me, wants the same things that are life from me in terms of what we want to achieve with our agencies. And that's why I always say you're quite influential, because I always look at what you're doing and thinking that's a smart idea. Never copy you, obviously. But cupcakes. Yeah, we might still even do it. Yeah, doing it. Don't tell him. There's a lot of stuff. Website design and everything. You recommended me, like, just take this template and use it. It was brilliant. But there's a lot. I mean, we go way back all the way to uni.
School.
So school. I always say uni. We went to high school together, which was quite fun. Completely different now, high school, I think.
Yeah.
When I see my nephews and nieces at school, I always think it's different, but we had a good time back then.
I think we had a really good year in that, because we were in different bands, so you had classes, but then bands as well.
Yeah.
But our whole year, everyone got on.
I was in white.
Yeah, I was green band.
I moved to green band in year 8, though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so that's why I was in Amex.
But everyone... Yeah, Emma Sugden was in white band.
Yeah.
She's sort of
we all used to walk home together.
Yeah, like everyone got on. Like, we had a really good year that just everyone was friends to a degree, even if you weren't in the same class or anything like that. So it was quite nice.
Yeah, and we just had always, because everyone just lived in the same, when everyone walked in certain directions, everyone lived in the same area, like people like Emma and everyone. All of us used to all walk together, like home. As a group, and there'd be like certain drop-off points where like Matt Oxley and like Rob would get off, and then Carl and everyone, and then we'd go more towards the Carl Manners area where Emma Sugden was. It was quite good back then. So you've been going as a sole agent since 2020 as myself. Mm-hmm. You've got a team size of how much did you say? 13. I remember back then when we were sharing offices, I had a team size of like 3 or 4. Mm. You had a team size of...
Maybe about 6.
6, yeah. It was good sharing offices. We had a lot of collaborations, but then it was good to kind of like... I just didn't like... No, I can say this now anyway because I'm not there, but I didn't like Bracken workspaces. Yeah, it's okay. What they're going to sue me for saying I didn't like them. I mean, I was honest with them. I left with them. I just didn't like how they managed.
Yeah.
Because you went off because you needed more space.
Yeah, we needed more space, and the rising cost of serviced offices, it then just started to make sense to get our own space that we could make our own a little bit more and have a bit more control over where we were spending money and stuff like that. So that was where we made the decision to move out and get our own place.
Yeah. We ended up staying and taking a smaller size than what we needed. And then I decided to completely get out back in 2023, and we moved over here. Yeah. And the reason we moved over here is this office is, again, significantly smaller, but there's more facilities available for us for the price that we're paying.
Yeah.
Back then, there wasn't as much breakout space. You were just confined to your office. Here, we're not confined to the office.
Yeah,
We've got all of Royal Armouries available to us. Well, the whole area of the docks, the Leeds docks, available to us. So many facilities. And we switched office size for facilities, and the staff prefer it. And it's still on the outskirts. I mean, you moved all the way to one of the nicest areas, Chapel Allerton. Yeah. Though it was a top 5 places to live in the UK.
I must say, I mean, I'm a North Leeds girl anyway. But it is not. I mean, for us, it was about, well, can you park there for free or good transport routes? Is there things you can do on your doorstep? And is the actual office nice? You know,
Yeah.
so those were the criteria really, and it ticked all the boxes for us moving there.
Same here. Parking right next door. Accessible. People can get into town. Can easily walk 15 minutes to the offices as well.
Yeah.
Clients can get here that are coming out from Leeds. Clients can drive here. We can get from here to wherever we want. Plus, in summer, there's a lot of stuff at our doorstep, a lot of events that happen. There's like Journey Further here, there's Intermarks, well, IMA around the corner. There's a lot of agencies in this area. So we're kind of in like a tech hub, which kind of appealed more to me as well. There's a question here, and I don't know if you want to ask this question to us.
Hello.
Yeah.
It starts
James is
like a third wheel in this recording, but it's nice hearing you both reminisce and kind of hearing about how you first met. I didn't realise you went all the way back to school, which is crazy. What large animal were you both kicked by, which made you want to own an agency then? Because it is a bit mental, isn't it? Tell us, why did you get into this?
Go first.
I actually always had a dream of owning an agency, and I can't even tell you why. So when I was picking what I was going to do at uni, I decided on marketing. So I was like, just something that's kind of businessy but fun. You know, I wanted something that I could get a career in. It was either going to be marketing or I was going to go and do drama. And I was like, what's the chances of me actually becoming an actress? So decided to be realistic, you know, so get into marketing. And then from uni, I've just always had this thought, I'm going to have my own agency one day. I actually got put off by that a lot during my career. So I had 2 very short and small stints in other agencies and hated it both times. And I was like, actually, do you know what? Maybe I don't want to have an agency. I don't like agency world. Much preferred working in-house, client side. But I must have spent too hard manifesting it all of the rest of the time for it to come along. And for me, I mean, I've told my story on various other platforms, but it kind of came around a bit by mistake, but just for context. So I quit my kind of high-flying client-side head of marketing job in a tech company where I was managing international teams because my brother passed away. And then I got involved with Trio doing some consultancy work. And then one thing led to another, Anna took over. So, you know, it was an interesting journey to get to that point, but I am a really big believer that everything happens for a reason. So I think it was meant to get there. And it's nowhere near as bad as the other agencies I worked for. So
you create your own thing, don't you?
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. But how did your the people that were working there at the time that you went from being like say you were kind of like working there as a consultant to ultimately becoming like the boss? That must have been quite a strange sort of change in dynamic.
So there was a group of people there at the time. I don't think they would have thought for any second it was weird because they saw what I could do and what I brought to the table. And when I got involved with some shares, we wiped the team clean and started again. Wow. So that was in 2019. So 2019, I took on 50%, but then it was 2020 that I bought out the remaining founder. And so, I was like, we need new office, new people, better team, so I built it all again from the ground up. The only thing we retained was the name, and some of our clients who are still with us today as well. Some of them, have stayed through that journey, but it was like starting a whole new business essentially.
And what was your kind of thought process between, because that feels like quite an extreme way of sort of dealing with that. Did it just feel like it needs to be a clean break? No,
it felt like I needed better people.
Oh, okay.
For one of
you've got to be truthful.
Got high standards, and I didn't feel that they were up to scratch. I think this is like the messy part of the journey is, going in and seeing the potential and what I could bring, but that would look very different to what was there at the moment. And so it got to a point where I had changed so much, I don't think it would have been able to run without me, but it was either I run this or I leave. And the outcome was I stay and run it. So and it become my own.
And the agency world is better for it. I think you bring a lot to the agency industry, knowledge, expertise. One thing I didn't realise is when we were obviously at high school and sixth form together, I had no idea you were applying for marketing degrees.
Yeah.
'Cause obviously I applied for marketing and advertising because the only thing that I knew I was confident in was I wanted to get into advertising. I didn't want to do anything else. It was the only modules that I was really, really good at.
Yeah.
I did my degree like you, but I did in marketing and advertising management.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do marketing and advertising as both. I had a different experience. I did a 3-month stint at 26 Digital voluntary to get some experience during peak recession times, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, this is what I was born to do. Like, this is where I can thrive. Strategy. It was fast paced. If things moved too slow for me, I never really enjoyed it. I mean, Laura can attest to this because Laura and me have worked together before at Sainsbury's. I never stood still at Sainsbury's. You wouldn't just see me in checkouts. I'd be on customer service. I got trained on the petrol station. I was out doing the admin. I was a PR ambassador for the store. I used to do stock change. I did everything and anything.
Yeah.
I could, to the point where they're like, you need to become a future manager here. And it was a decision between my masters and going down the career development that Laura went down. And I ultimately kept true to, no, I'm passionate about marketing.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about advertising. I love what this could do for me. And I never regretted going back and doing a master's and doing that and then getting the experience and going into it. And then I've only ever worked agency side. Obviously, big agency names, gratefully, like Cara, Dentsu, Intermarketing, now IMA. But yeah.
And I would say that I've got people and friends who've worked either side or talk about switching. And I think it would be much harder going agency side internally than internal to agency, because I was in my absolute, I was amazing at what I was doing, and, everyone thought I was doing a great job internally, but then I got schooled coming to run an agency, and not even just the running the agency side, but the stuff you need to know, the detail of it inside and out. And I think it would be much harder to go from agency into client side, and kind of things do move slower and stuff. But the thing I didn't like at the time about agency, especially because it was in the younger days, was not being able to own anything of my own or make a decision. It was just do this for someone else, whereas if I was client side, I was doing it and that was my thing. That was what I didn't like at the time, but also the culture and structure of the agencies. And I do think that's something, agency world, and I know you're very different, as am I, agency world gets a really bad rep. And there are a lot of agencies today who still overwork their staff completely, have them working all evening, all through the night, overworking, underpaid. I think you and I both separately decided that wasn't going to be the agencies we were going to run, and that we would create nice places for our team and good workplace cultures and stuff like that. But there is still that rap on agencies today because it is still out there.
Yeah, I always say agencies get a bad rap. But I guess it's... I've been in it. I've seen it. I've seen it at the toppest level, and I saw what I liked and what I didn't like, and what I built into Bobble was what I liked and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do things differently. I've loved the journey I've been on. It's been stressful. I've talked about it, up and downs. I think there was a post you shared on LinkedIn, so I actually do. Because when you're on LinkedIn, you see the people you engage with the most. Their posts you tend to see more. And there was a post you mentioned, I don't know if it was the end of 2023, but you were talking about how you only had a few £100 left in the bank account.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know that. I mean, we'd caught up so many times, but it resonated because I think we've been on such the same journey. It's like when we share each other's stories and we read on it afterwards, even though it's in constant contact, and I'm not going to talk about private conversations between us, but it's eye-opening in terms of how difficult it is in terms of, and this talk is about the reality of being an agency owner. So tell us a bit more about that point when it was like, holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone running a business knows that cash flow is the biggest problem. And so that was an identification of this is how bad it can be. I mean, since then, yes, so that was at the end of 2023. And in fact, so I think I posted at the end of 2023 and I said that was the year before. So it actually happened at the end of 2022. And at that time, that felt like the scariest thing. And my husband was out of work because he had a really bad injury. And so, the business income was our income. And it's like, we two of us were surviving off it and stuff like that. So the stress you go through, is real, and it's stress for him as well. I'm like, well, what are you going to do about it? And all these things. But then, just last year, to be totally frank, so we started last year with 19 people. Here we are today with 13. So we went through a period of redundancies last year. And it is a difficult landscape out there. I think the misconceptions is it means that you're failing if you do that, but actually that's the way of surviving. And so we had the previous kind of 3 or 4 years, we'd had on average 44% year-on-year growth. So then I was like, year number 4, we're going to have 44%, growth again. Let's hire that team. Let's do these things at that point. And, that wasn't the year. And, tough economic climate last year. So we went through a round at the time. We made 4 people redundant. And then, we had a few people leave because of it. They didn't like, what had happened or whatever else. But that was all done so that we could continue to survive. And, last year, then doing our first 7-figure turnover year.
Well done, by the way, because that's the hardest thing to achieve in business.
Yeah, and I think it's like you have to go through. I try maintain the mindset of the bad things are happening to prepare you for the good things. So I'm like always convincing myself of that, of like, this is just to prepare you for what's to come. And so if it's really bad, there must be something really good on the way. And that's how I get through a lot of things. But I think we might not even be over the worst of it, to be honest. I don't know.
This horrible feeling. So we had so it resonated with me because when you did that post last year, in December of 2023, I was like, shit. Sorry, I mean, it's explicit podcast. I was like, shit's hitting the fan. Right, let's be honest with you. I was like, this isn't looking good. And you can see the future, like, this isn't great. And between January and end of February, we lost 260 grand's worth of total combined yearly revenue. So when you put that into context into monthly, that's like just over 20 grand a month, right, in revenue. A lot of it was clients just not able to afford it. 80% of that was down to economic, clients cutting budgets, nothing we can do. I had clients call me up saying, same thing, Manni, I have cash flow issues. I can't do this. We had clients just not paying and delayed payments, so we saw it. And it just happened to be, it was our second largest client and our third largest client, and then client number 5 and 6. So you wouldn't mind, because the good thing about it, well, the smart thing about running agencies, you don't put all the eggs in one basket. Some of the bigger agencies, they rely on big FTSE 500 companies, which is the bulk of their work. And what I saw in the agency world, which is actually it's an Asda or a Jet2 or a, Adidas account, which, I've been grateful to work on. That's what takes it to big numbers when you get the big, clients. So it's not like they've got hundreds of clients. It's like, no, they've got a good handful of clients, but 80% of their revenue, say 80-20 law, 80% of their revenue comes from one client. We were good in the sense that we had a lot of clients at a good average level, but then it just the wrong side of the scale went off. And similar, we had to make redundancies. We're hiring for the first time. Well, we've hired for the first time this year. So last year, we didn't hire all. And like you, year before that, we went through the figures back in January. We were averaging a 59% for 3 years consecutively increase. And the year before that, from 2020 to 2021, was 132% increase, where we actually had a big jump, or 113%. And we just finished our 2024 year, and it was minus 3.3. So I'm really impressed with that. Because you think, you went down, you went backwards. We were actually, turns out we're only 19 grand down. So I recovered 240 grand's worth of revenue from the end of March to December.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy with that in a tough economic environment as well.
Do you know what? It was my dad that said it to me just the other day. He was like, to be surviving at the moment is doing a great job.
Yeah.
You know, to be getting through is good enough, pat on the back, you know, to still be there, to live to see another year, all of those things, because it is tough. And I don't think people understand the mental strain that comes with all of that, and you know, how it feels having to let people go, how it feels when you go "Ooh," and you see the bank account or whatever else. And these are not isolated problems. This is how, you know, I saw an agency owner post earlier this week about being owed 50k, you know, 50k in outstanding invoices. I think we're at about 150k. I mean, that not all overdue, you know, so that's just what's issued. But this is the world we live in and the game that we're constantly playing. So to be able to, and I think you and I are similar in that kind of ambitious growth mindset. Whereas I know a lot of agencies who, when I'm talking to them and going, oh yeah, but last year we did actually still grow. We still grew revenue. I think it was about a 24% growth rather than the 44 we'd seen previous. And they actually all went back last year. Like most people went back, and, you know, I think we're always like, improve every year. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. You know, whereas I've started this year going, well, even if it stays the same, I'm all right with that, you know, whereas I've always wanted to see more. If it stays the same, I goes back, but I achieve these other things, you know, and what we set out this year in our strategy was around profitability and stability and having targets on those rather than any revenue targets. You know, so if those things are achieved, then it'd be a job well done. But it's easy to chase the revenue, but it is a vanishing metric at the end of the day. It
is about profitability. We've talked a lot about it, and mine's a hybrid. I'm being transparent. Mine is because I still want to get, and we're very, very close now to get into that 7-figure, and that's where the business size and actually running a business becomes different. Obviously, the first million's the hardest. The second million's tends to be a given, but it takes time. So for us, it's scaling up to that level of capabilities across both. People forget I have my UAE entity that does quite well, as well as my UK entity. So it's, for me, it's hybrid. We're looking a lot more about, you know, nurturing. There's so much in the pipeline. I know it's going to happen. It's about how do we effectively execute that. But there's other things.
Well, if I can add, you know, so probably for both of us, to be in the place where clients can just stop is also a learning curve, you know. So up until last year, we had contracts that could roll, and so it was a month by month, whereas, you know, we've now invested in full contracts, and it's either a 6 or 12 or 24-month contract, and that's that, and they're watertight. You know, so that we cannot be in that position again. And we've reissued contracts now to all our existing customers. All new customers we're bringing on are on these contracts, so we can, you know, even if 1 month to the other it feels challenging, I can go, we are guaranteed this income this year. It's all signed off. This is our contract value that we've got, and we know that if someone doesn't pay or to leave through it, the only thing they can do is either pay the way out the contract or take legal action. You know, and you have to do those things to protect yourself. So I think in the early days before I you know, was a director or shareholder in Trio, the selling point was no contracts. That was how they were selling the service. Whereas I'm like, no contract, no sale. You know, like we're not working with you without a contract.
It does change. We've still employed our minimum 6 months. We do that with some clients where, you know, we're like, well, actually now, if you want to do a 12-month contract, we'll give you a bit more economies of scale if you tie it down to. But one thing I haven't done is compromise on value and cost. I think that's when you start compromising and taking on, you start going backwards, where you start doing your work for cheaper and elements. And it's almost like I don't discount them for longer term, by the way. That's what you're getting at. No, so we can incentivize for the first 6 months. Then after that, it's on that. So like ISEO stuff is 6 months. Can roll in. Other stuff it's still minimum 60-day notice periods. But that's appealing. But we offer transparency, and I like doing that because I feel like it's just who we are. I feel like it holds us to a level of accountability because we're so performance driven, and that actually, and you can't guarantee performance, in this industry, but it's showcasing to the clients like what a client would never want to leave you if you're doing a good job anyway.
Yeah.
You should never be considered in a client's when they're struggling to say, right, actually we can get rid of that. No, Bobble are essential. That's something we can't afford to get rid of.
Yeah.
That's the mindset. That's the kind of relationships and integration that I'm focusing on this year with the team to say, no, Bobble are our go-to.
Yeah.
Like Bobble is like having QuickBooks, having an accountant. Does that make sense? We need that no matter what. And that's what I've built with my Bobble Insights elements. And on that note, I think that's a good place for us to have a quick breather. Grab some water, have a catch up, and then we'll be picking up some more questions on part 2 next week. So join us then.